Good morning. It is May 13th, 1 week out from Ironman 70.3 Morro Bay. It is officially the start of race week. It is 5:18 in the morning. I am headed off for a master swim. Today, Coach talked about doing some race pacing for a couple of us triathletes that are there. So I think what he had in mind is 30 by 100 with what you're shooting for is about a 10-second rest. So I'll do a few during warm-up, see where that's at. That might be around a 140, 145 and a 100-meter pool to get 10 seconds rest. I would love to swim a 129 or a 130 per 100-yard pace for the 1.2 miles. That would put me right at 30 minutes or just below. Then after swim, we'll talk about my wetsuit test I did last Monday. Recently, Synergy sent me their thermal wetsuit because it is cooler temperatures right now, just coming out of winter, the ocean is cooler. They also sent me a new Hybrid EFX3, which is their top of the line wetsuit. It's the wetsuit I've actually been using for a couple of years, but with these higher end wetsuits, they're not made to last forever. The materials are not as thick or strong, so they tear a lot easier, they wear out quicker. And mine, with all the racing I've done in the last few years, was in pretty bad shape. So I tested out both wetsuits in the pool and we'll go over the results. My main objective was to figure out how much faster the EFX3 was than the thermal. And is it worth maybe being a little extra cold in the water for what time gain I might get using the non-thermal suit? It's race week. It's about as excited as we get. So excited?
So excited.
Ended up doing 3,200 meters, and it wasn't all just 30 by 100. What we did was about a 500 warm-up, then went into a 300, got our time, then another 300, got our time, which set my pace. I was swimming about a 132 per 100 meters on the first 300, so 132 per 100 in that 300. And then the second one was a little bit slower than that. So instead of putting my pace at a 140 per 100, we wanted to get at least 10 seconds rest. We did a 150 pace per 100, 15 100s, and I was coming in pretty regularly around a 138, trying not to go all out, pace myself throughout the whole 1,500 meters. The last few, that time was starting to drift under 10 seconds rest, more like 8 seconds rest. So I was swimming more like a 140 to 142. Then as soon as we were done, we did another 300, which I came in under 5 minutes, which meant my pace was right around a 140 per 100 meters. So if you do the conversion, I use the swim/swam calculator, put in 1 minute, 40 seconds for long course meters, 100 meters, and convert that to 100 short course yards. That is a 128. So that would mean I'm averaging about a 130 pace, which is great for 100 yards. Now, if I can actually maintain that for 2,200 yards with a wetsuit, which we'll talk about how much faster I was in a wetsuit in just a minute. Good morning. CB, how'd your overnight oats come out?
Good, I'd say.
Yeah, pretty good. Yummy. Hello, Mapey Mapes. Hello, baby. How are you?
Tired.
Tired? You guys stayed up late. Mom never told you to go to bed? Did she fall asleep on the couch?
Probably.
I think she did. You gotta stop following me. Stretching the back. Kinda. You missed me getting up. So sore. All right, well, I am headed out. I went to see Dr. Andrews this morning right after I swam, then came home, and now I have worked for about 4 hours. Now it is 12:30. I'm going to meet up with Raul, who I gave my bike to yesterday when I swam, which I'll show you a little bit later. I keep putting off talking about the wetsuits because the day is just flying by. But when I do get to finally getting to talk to you guys, I'm gonna talk about last week's workouts as well as the wetsuit test. But right now, I'm gonna pick up my bike because I gave it to Raul yesterday when I was down the Long Beach swimming. He's got it all tuned up, swapped out with some new tires because I had some punctures in the tires. They are tubeless now, but there were definitely some spots that had gotten some punctures as I've been training. So now it is race ready. Before I forget to mention, I am hosting a shakeout run on Saturday at Morro Bay, 8 a.m. We are running from the Ironman Village. We are going to do, I don't know, about 3 miles. I'll probably do a mile and a half out, mile and a half back. It'll be a run at your own pace. I'm gonna run an easy pace for the first mile, probably about an 8:30. Then in the second mile, do some race pace pickups, and then another easy mile. Just an easy shakeout, but the whole idea is it is a run at your own pace, your own distance, and just a chance to meet up. Some of the OCE folks are gonna be there, some of the Varlo folks are gonna be there, some people that follow me on Instagram, and any of you who are racing, you are welcome to come out and join us for a run, get to meet, take some photos, hang out, and then probably after the run, grab some breakfast or coffee somewhere.
Dude, you can't beat this bike service.
Were they bad?
Yeah, it looked like the rear one, you probably had like 3 flats that you never dealt with.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, it never went flat. All right, well, it is 5:30. The workday is done. My oldest just went to volleyball. My youngest is hanging out in the house, watching some TV. Christina is off at a meeting she has tonight. So let's talk about last week's workouts as well as the swim test I did. First off, thank you to Synergy. They have been a longtime supporter of myself and the videos that I make, so I greatly appreciate that support. I've been swimming in their wetsuits, both the thermal and the hybrid EFX, for a long time, at least 2 or 3 years. And recently, they sent me a new set of each, a new thermal and a new hybrid EFX3. So I wanted to test those going into Morro Bay because that water is going to be cold. I've been told that it's right around 52 right now, which is pretty darn cold. And I wanted to be able to make the decision, is it worth wearing the thermal? Because I've been told the thermal is a little slower than the high-end EFX3. But I wanted to figure out how slow is slower and how much time would that equate to over 2,200 yards, essentially. 2,170, I believe, is the exact conversion for 1.2 miles to yards. So I wanted to test that in the pool. So let's check out the swim footage from that, and then I'll talk about the results.
Huh. 107.
I think swim that fast all the time.
First 100 felt okay.
Yeah.
Was it any smoother?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
300, 346. So as you can see in some of the times I listed when I was swimming, there was a significant gain in going from no wetsuit to the thermal, and then another gain going from the thermal to the EFX. So let's start real quick with the non-wetsuit, just wearing a Speedo, doing a 100 sprint. I went out and I did a 107 for 100 yards. It's a 25-yard pool, so 4 lengths and hit a 107. Then I did a 200 and a 300, and my time drifted up slightly for each of those. Then I jumped out. Between each set, I took about a 5-minute break, but after the 100, 200, 300 with no suit on, I jumped out, I put on the thermal. I wanted to test the thermal first because if it is slower and I was going to get tired as I continued to swim, I wanted to see if the EFX still performed better than the thermal by the time I got to the point in testing it. So I got the thermal on. I will say it is very hard to put a wetsuit on when you are wet. The second test with the thermal wetsuit, I swam a 1-minute flat for 100. So that's 7 seconds faster than I did the 100 with no suit on at all. And then that kind of transferred on up. And then finally resting again, hopping out, putting on the EFX3. At that point, I was feeling tired. I definitely could feel it. Rested 5 minutes. The 100 sprint in the Hybrid EFX, which is their high-end suit, I went 57 seconds. So ultimately that is 3 seconds faster than the thermal and 10 seconds faster in 100 than wearing no suit at all. So when you think about a sprint even, is it worth wearing a wetsuit when you're doing a sprint, say 500 yards? For me, that would equate to almost 50 seconds. I can get that wetsuit off in way less than 50 seconds. So even for 500 yards, I think there is a benefit to wearing a wetsuit if you can. And that same 10 seconds did transfer as I went up to a 200. There's some data to consider when you're thinking about, is a thermal wetsuit slower than a non-thermal? In this case, it is about 3 seconds on the 100 sprint. And that translates all the way through the whole swim. You're going to save time if you are in a higher end wetsuit than the thermal. But ultimately, the thermal, if the water temperature is cold, the thermal is still a vast improvement over not wearing a wetsuit at all. So beyond the swim test, I did train fairly high volume and high intensity the rest of the week. Notable workouts were Wednesday. I was back on the track. I did swim that morning, but I was back on the track on Wednesday for a 9-mile workout. Today we got a 1.5 mile warm up, then some stretching, then 8 by 800, descending 15 seconds each time, pairing them up. So 2 800s, then 2 800s, 2 800s, 2 800s, descending 15 seconds each pair. I'm still trying to take it easy on the calf. I will get down to 605, wrote them down so I don't forget, 650, 635, 620, 605. Should be able to remember that, but when start hurting, start running hard, I forget what my times are supposed to be. And then after each 800, a 400 kind of recovery, kind of a 9-minute mile pace, and another 1.5 miles down to warm down.
So how was your run? Easy?
No, not at all. First 4 were easy. The second 4, the 620 and the 605s were hard. 605s were tough. But I think I definitely hit the second one. I don't know if I hit the first one. I got 1 mile left, warm down, and I'm done. Definitely tired, but the calf held up, which is good. It did not give me any problems. But I don't think wearing my inserts inside these shoes is gonna work. I think they're heavy, they're really, really tight, uncomfortable, so I'm gonna have to go without the inserts for the race. Had a really great run. The calves held up, they felt good. The goal was to descend each of the 800s, allowing myself, I did a 1.5 mile warm up and cool down, but I went into the workout with a little more of a warm up and then started out not so hot and slowly dialed it up each of the 800s and felt really, really good. I was really happy with that workout. Then the other notable workouts for the week were Saturday and Sunday, which was yesterday. But Saturday, my daughter had a volleyball clinic, so I was somewhat pressed for time. So I didn't do a 3-hour ride. I just did 2 hours. Ended up doing 38 miles with some intervals in there, which felt really good, right around 240, 250 watt intervals. And then after that, hopped off the bike for a hot run, hot meaning fast run, and it went really, really well. First mile was a 6:45, second mile was a 6:45, third mile was a 6:46, and then the fourth mile was a 6:39. And ultimately, I was pushing the pace. I was breathing hard. It was starting to hurt, but I was really happy I was able to hop off after a long week of training and then a pretty significant ride, hop off and run those paces, which then meant the next day was my final long run of this training block going into Morro Bay, and I had a 10-mile run, and then I followed that up with an open water swim, met up with a bunch of the OCE crew down in Bay Shores, got down to Long Beach, 5 a.m., started my run. It was a 10-mile run where I was going to do 4 miles at 7:30s, 3 miles at 7, and then another 4 miles at 7:30. And I pretty much went spot on for that workout. No footage of that one because it was dark. But then when I got back from that, hopped in the water and had a great swim, 2,000 yards.
Good morning, Chris. This is Steven coming live to you from Bayshore. You are behind me over there. And I'm being lazy today about my swimming, so I'm gonna see if I can get you swimming right now.
Swam with Ryan and with Brian, who are both doing Morro Bay and both really good swimmers, better swimmers than I am. And we swam hard. First 500 yards, we swam at a 120 pace. I was working really hard to stay on their feet, but ultimately came out of that swim feeling like I could swim hard and I should be able to swim hard at the race. One of the things that I have felt since coming back to doing triathlon after that huge break I took almost 10 years, when I came back in 2019, I had many races, at least 4 or 5, that I had panic attacks in the water. Hit the water too hard, get out 300, 400, 500 yards, can't catch my breath, rolling over, feeling like I've got to get out of the wetsuit, got to get out of the water. Dial it back a little bit after that first 500 to more of a 125 pace, but not end up feeling like I was gasping and that I had to roll over and that I was panicking. It gave me a little bit of confidence knowing that I can go into this race and I should be able to go out hard, dial it back, and swim my pace controlled and have confidence to swim a very, very hard swim. All right, well, it is now 7 o'clock. My daughter needs to be picked up at 7:30 from volleyball. I am headed down to the garden to do some watering, but everything is doing great. The growth on everything. The peaches are coming in. There are a ton of peaches coming in. We've got a ton of apples coming in, avocados, and then
everything that Christina planted, all the tomato plants, they pretty much all have tomatoes on them. The zucchini, we already got 2 zucchini yesterday, picked about 5 tomatoes yesterday. There are peas that are showing up already. Got these tons of peas on here, and every tomato plant has tomatoes on them. We're gonna have so many tomatoes. It is crazy how many tomatoes there are. And these zucchinis in here, see if we can find some. You got these little guys. There's a bunch coming in there. I don't see any more zucchinis, but I know oh, there they are. Zucchini. So the garden is doing amazing. I am going to water a little bit and then in this video here, because I gotta go get my daughter and then shut it down. Actually, about 30 minutes ago, I started feeling like I was having either some sinus issues or an allergy issue, sneezing, my throat got scratchy. I'm hoping that it's just some allergies. I'm gonna go take some Claritin and then get to bed early. My goal this week is to try to get 8 hours of sleep every single night. I have been lacking big time on that. So really want to go into this race rested. Obviously, I'm going to go take some vitamin C and hopefully this just goes away by tomorrow morning. But I hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was kind of a mash of last week and the swim test and the things that are going on today. I don't know if they'll all be this long, but I will knock out as many of these race videos as I can this week going into Morro Bay.